Good morning, all. Today we are going to discuss functions, which is covered in the fourth module of programming in C. So, if you look at functions, functions is a group of statements that together performs a task. So, if you can recall the programs that we wrote in our class, every program you can see a main function. Actually, functions are denoted by open and closed brackets, so which is shown here. So every program have at least one function which is called main function. So depending upon the programmer, we can add more functions to a program. So if you see the functions, there are built-in functions which is included in the library of our C programs. Such built-in functions are strcat, which is used to concatenate two strings. Two strings means, suppose if we want to add two words where it means a strings, apple and mango, we want to add without any spacing. So you can use the function strcat. You can use the function strcat, and inside the parenthesis you can write apple plus, not plus, apple mango. So the result will be apple mango, which is concatenated. Same the way, if you want to know the memory location, you can use memcpy. Then whatever locations you need, you have to put inside the bracket. That will get the location. So in library functions we have already created functions in library files. Moving to, if we want to create our own functions, it should have three different parts. First one is here, the return type. Second one is the function name, and third one is the parameter list. So these are the three things we have to include while we are dealing with a function. Then what are all these things? You can look into that. For that, let's see first. Return type means what type of the data we are going to return after running the program. So that is what the return type mean here. Type of data means sometimes the data will be an integer value, sometimes the data will be a character value. So what is the nature of the data we are going to return after calling that function? Every function will be called from the main function, and after executing the commands written inside the sub function, it will return something to the main function. So what is the data category, data type it return? That we have to show at the in means first segment of the function statement. Next one, function name. So every function will be differentiated by its name. So actually people are differentiated by our name. Same the way every functions have its own name. Function name and parenthesis list together contribute a function signature. So after the function name we are creating a parameter list. So if you take the syntax will be as shown here. a return type, that may be integer, function name may be suppose we want to add two values. I am going to give the name add numbers, and inside the parameter whatever value I am going to get it here. Okay, we'll go to the parameter. Okay, here the parameters means parameter is like a placeholder. Here the parameter is like a placeholder. When a function invoked, you pass a value to the parameter. So here what is happening means from the main function it will call a subprogram, means subfunction. At that instant main function will give some value to the function that we are called. Invoking time, at the time of invoking it will pass some value to the parameter. That value is getting by the parameter. This value is referred as actual parameter or argument. The values which is transferring from main program to the subprogram or our function is called an argument. The parameter list refers to type, order, number of parameter or parameters of the function. Parameters are optimal, that is a function contain no parameter. Parameters are optional, means it is not necessary that we have to give the parameters for all the functions. If you can look at the the main functions here, whenever we are writing a main function we are not giving any parameter inside this one. Such kind of functions are there. Going ahead, so if you go through an example here, so we are going through a code which is written for comparing two numbers which is named as num1, num1 and num2, and return maximum value between these two. Whichever be the maximum, it have to be get returned. Function returning. So we are writing the program in this way. Not it's not a complete program, only the part where we are going to using the function call statements. Here integer means what? This is the data type. Then max means what? That is the function name. Then integer num1. So here itself we are declaring that the num1 will have the nature of integer. So this is a one parameter, and the second parameter is what? Integer num2. So while calling this function, the main program will transfer some value to this one and another value to this one. So while start executing this program, here we have some value inside num1, some value inside num2, which is transferred from the main program. So moving ahead, we can see that integer result, we declare a new variable which is named as result. So then we are going to compare the data inside num1 and num2. So if statement num1 greater than num2, we say that result is equal to num1. So the greatest value is stored inside result, else we are saying that greatest value is num2 which is stored in result. Then we say that result, we have to return a value from the subprogram to the main program. That value should be inside result. So after running this program, what will happen? After running this program, the sub function means main program will call the max named function, integer max, and while executing this one, the maximum value will be stored in result. Then at the end it will return a value to the main program that will be contained inside the result. So this is how it works. Now going ahead, how we are going to put these kind of things inside a program. That's the next stage we are going to see through. You can see function declaration. Same the way here, if you look at the one thing here, we integer result. Before using the result a variable, we already declare that we are using a location which is named as a result, and the nature of the location is integer. That is what does this mean. Same the way, before we write a sub functions, we have to declare it before the main function. So this is mandatory and we have to do it. So looking to function declaration, see here, this is we are going to look at function declaration. Function declaration tells the compiler about the function name and how to call the function. So while compiler start compiling the program, initially it will tell this main program should have some sub functions, so it have to be tell at the beginning itself. The actual body of the function can be defined separately. Actual body can be defined separately. Before that, we have to tell we are using a function in this sub function in this program. So same the way, return type, then function name, then parameter list. These are the three things with a semicolon before the main function. So here we wrote a program which is to find out the maximum, of two numbers. So looking this program, we have to declare the function which will be in this format: integer int num1 comma int num2, close the parenthesis, semicolon, before the main function. Function declaration is required when you define a function in one source file and you call that function in another file. Such in case, you should declare the function at the top of the file calling the function. Then function calling. Here function calling, how we are going to call the function. While creating a C function, you give a definition of what the function has to do. To use a function, you will have to call the function to perform the defined task. So when program calls a function, the program control is transferred to the function. So what you mean by calling a function means, when the function is called, the program control will be transferred to another location and it will start executing the code inside that coding section. So it's a part programming procedure. So one main function will be there, many sub function will be there. From the main function, the sub function will be get executed as the programmer intended to call the function. So the benefit of this one is that if you want to do a repeated running of a set of code, so you can write it at once, and whenever it requires, we can repeatedly call it multiple times inside the program. It is very easy to do that. So looking at this one, control transfer, okay, control of the program is transferred to user defined function by calling it. Syntax will be function name argument 1 argument 2 and how many arguments you are going to pass, semicolon. Function name means here we have to look one more thing. If you want to call this function max will be the name of the function, and in argument will be argument 1 and argument 2 means what are the value you are going to give to that subfunction for processing it. So we are going to that session next. Here, passing argument to the function. So if you are running some code inside the subfunction, it needs some values from the main program. So passing the argument means passing some value from main function to subfunction. So suppose we have two variables named as n1 and n2 are passes during the function call. So I am going to call some function, and at that instant it passes two values which is inside n1 and n2 to the subfunction. So here we are using two different variables notations. So how to pass the argument function, let's go through this one, how to pass argument functions. Here we already declared that we are using a subfunction which name is add numbers and nature is integer. It holds an integer location named a and integer location named b. That is what we see here. Next one, main program starts, some codings are done over there, and in between we said that sum equal to add number open bracket n1 comma n2, which means here is the step we are going to call the subfunction. That means that add number is the name of a function, so the program will search for the add function. So it find that here we can find the add function. So what it will do, after this one the control will be moved to this line. This line means it will be somewhere in the program, maybe end of the program, so control will be moved to that, and at that instance whatever be the first argument it will be passed to the first variable, whatever be the second argument it will be passed to the second variable. So what we will get, n1 value at a and n2 value at b, and both the nature of the data type will be integer. This is how we are going to pass argument, or we can call it as value, arguments to the function. Return statement. So once you got the argument inside this program, maybe if you want to add something or compare two values, it will have some result. That result have to be returned back to the main program. So for that we are using a return statement. Here we can see that a return statement, the variable we are going to, okay, let's see this, okay, let's see this one, return statement for a function, return statement of a function. So here same the last program, we return result. So here what we do is we got the value n1 in a and n2 in b. So we did some calculations and we stored that value in a result. So after running this function, whatever value we are getting we stored in result. Now our aim is to return back this value to the main program. So while using the keyword return, after we are using result, So whatever be the value inside the result will be saved to this location. That means that now if you check what is the value inside sum, it will be equal to result. So we are passing n1 n2 to this. Two arguments were passed to this function. This function will process the data. After that it will store in result. After then at this step it will return the value to back to return the value back to this step. So now sum will get the value which is stored in the result. So for today's lecture I am going to stop here. So I would like to do some works from this session through you. So what you have to do is using these functions, sub functions, you have to take input from the user, two input from the user, and after that with the help of sub functions, naming, add, subtract, multiply, divide. So four sub functions should be created, and with the help of the sub function you have to add, subtract, divide and multiply the value and produce the result in the main function. So this is the task you have to complete. So I think we can stop here. Thanks for watching.